Welcome to A Chief's Wife's Hearts of Fire. I'm the Chief's wife, and I'm back with another Frilly and Funkie challenge off of the Frilly and Funkie challenge blog that's sponsored by the Funky Junkie Boutique. This one is an inspirational thing that came from other inspiration from a few other of my new friends who have made fold-out journals or fold-out books. And I decided, hey, I can do that. I can make my own. So if you look through the other photos that I'm going to have on the blog, you'll be able to see how I tweaked it to make it so that it would open up exactly like I wanted it to. Now, as early as just this morning, I decided that just a plain old leather tie would do, because it matched in really well with the whole decor itself. I put in some glossy accents on this just to add a little dimension to it, and it's probably the only shine you'll find in there other than the metal itself. Almost all of this is Tim Holtz products, including the new memoranda, which is the stash papers, and a lot of the new cuts too, including the tickets and the ticket holder, which I really enjoy, so I kind of used the heck out of it here. Now, one of my favorite things to use on the IdeaOlogy is the gears, and some of the retired pieces I really love still. I still have some of those in my stash that I've saved for something special. We all do that. Those little IdeaOlogy things are so neat to just play with. And I really like the dolls too, so I incorporated some of these on here. Now, this is a special kind of journal because it opens like a book, but at the end you got a little surprise there. So let's go ahead and start our journey. So we open up, and since the theme is planes, trains, automobiles, I decided to add one of each. So each page is going to have something special about planes, about trains, about automobiles, and I added ships. Now, the neat thing is every one of these types of travel I've already done. So I get to add those extra little special touches to it because it's just the way I am. Sometimes I hate myself with the way I do all my little details. So I get going a little bit with my OCD, and not only do I add the goggles for the doll, but I also added some goggles that you can put on, steampunky. And you can see that I kind of melded a little bit, but the crackiness and the imperfections are purposefully put on there. I wanted something that when you look through it is going to look like those little prisms of snowmen or the little prisms that they make of Christmas trees. Well, this one you get cracked vision out of it. But yes, you can actually see through these little holes too. So I left them instead of punching out the middle. And I decided to take that same, which is the Thinlits gears die, and make the edging on here for the ear holders, and then just fussy cut around it onto another piece of paper. They kind of look funky and futuristic, steampunky. I just thought it was a little added nice touch. Now, the very first thing you're going to do before you get on the plane, besides put on your sunglasses, is you're going to get out your passport. Now, this is not your usual passport, but those new frames came this week, and I got a chance to add one in there. Boy, do I really like those. Those are awesome things. I can't wait to use those baseboard frames on some other things. This is out of the new memoranda stash, and some of the old is out of the travel stash too. And I added this out of the correspondence, and we really did take a trip then. So I used an old stamper that was still stuck on the date. I really like doing that. Now, the pocket was kind of half genius, half mistake made. I wanted to make it look like a pocket that would expand instead of just a plain pocket that wasn't going to give very much room for extra things. Photos, pens, pencils, whatever you pick up along the way. And always those little pamphlets that they show you that are in your front seat of the plane where it shows how to put your landing gear on, as if you're going to land in the ocean, called life jacket. Those kind of things that I always stuff the pamphlets in my bag because you never know when you're going to need them. I'm one of those ones that can't stand flying over the ocean. Now, I've taken loads of trips over our own lake and over our own house, which I think is really neat on smaller planes. But those larger planes, okay, that's it for me. I can do with the car. So let's go ahead and check out our schedule. We've got our parking ticket here. Now, the really neat thing is, just the other day, I arrived home from a vacation trip and got something in the mail from a new friend. And she adds a little telegram note to it from the Paper Harbor Company. It just happens to be a really old Indiana Railroad Company work schedule and training manual. And I thought it was so cool. It brought back a memory of David's grandpa who worked on the railroad just about this time. And he worked there for, I think, 30 years before he retired in 1976. And I mentioned that story. She thought it was so great that she sent this for free for me. Thank you so much. That was sweet. Unfortunately, it wouldn't fit in here, and I didn't want to tuck it away in here. I want to put it out where I can see it. So we have our constellation schedule. We have added tags. And I added the rub-ons and a few of my stash. This is not IdeaOlogy. I have no idea where it came from. But the global worked out great on the correspondence. And again, these are correspondence papers. My problem is I like to double and triple up on things to make them stay really sturdy. And then it adds to your bulk. But I kind of like the bulk. It means that I can just pop things open. I don't have to be so careful with it. I'm going to invest in glossy accents one of these days because I think I go through more bottles than anyone else. All right, let's go along to the next, which is trains. Now, trains happens to be the special thing, not just because of David's grandpa, but because of the trips that we've taken. We've never taken an overnight train visit, though we are thinking about booking one of those out west. It would be an awfully neat thing, I think. And the paper stash for the ephemera comes in really handy here. Now you're going to wonder why the Wabash. That's what I was getting into. I wanted to put Iron Horse there, which is Logansport, Indiana used to have the Iron Horse. And we rode it several times and took both of our kids, at least once that I can remember. But the Wabash Cannonball is the name of one of the Iron Horses. And I thought that was just a fitting name to put on there. Wabash, Indiana also is a place in Indiana that's not too far from here. Now, this was really a fun page. I spent too much time on this page. I had so much fun doing the details of this, not only of the places on here that we've already been to, okay, maybe not the Baltic, but, and the tags and everything that just fit together with names on there just like this. I thought it just came together so well, and it was me. And there's one thing about trains you'll find is it always has to be on time. Remember the Polar Express? Now this is engine number 9, just because mythologically it's supposed to be a good number for a train. I don't know why. I'll have to look that up sometime. Again, there you go with the dolls. I love those paper dolls. Let's go ahead and go on. And this time we're going to, whoops, I got a little bit of extra going out. We're going to take a wander by car. Now, the wander word is another special thing. License plates in Indiana used to say Wander, Indiana. So I thought that was really a cool thing to put in there. You've got alternate. You can see I kind of squish those together after I start with the middle letter first and then move my way over both sides. But it kind of had to squish over because I can undo this for just a second. And you can see where it had to fit underneath it. So I had to kind of squish that over. That's one thing I would change if I redid that. Now, I haven't heated this up, although my heating gun got quite a workout with this book because I used the Distress Oxide inks, and I just kept reheating, adding water, especially where I thought it was going to get rained on. When you're out in a car, and I don't know, I think we've done almost all of our trips by car. Ever since I can remember, when I was a little girl, I was sitting in the front room with one of my brothers and one of my sisters, my oldest sister my youngest sister of my dad's, and my brother from my mom. We were sitting together in the living room, and we could hear through the screen porch my mom and dad talking about buying a car. And we went to run through the house telling all the other kids, Mom and Dad's going to buy a new car. Mom and Dad's going to buy a car. Because we actually lived uptown then, which was downtown Logansport back then. And we did all of our walking. My parents walked maybe 3-4 blocks to both of their factories. I walked 4 blocks to the nearest elementary school. My brothers and sisters all went to the high school or the next middle school. So we all walked separately, and we went downtown to buy groceries. We did everything downtown. And all we had to do was walk over one bridge, which was right across the street from our house, which was on the Wabash River, and we were there. And I can remember when they bought this car, it was the most god-awful pea green, a 2-door Buick. That was, no, it was Plymouth. It was Plymouth. And it was, all I can say, it looked like a pea that dropped out of heaven, made into pea soup. It was ugly. So the greens are all because of that car. And I kind of thought this does look like my mother, but that looks more like my dad's father instead of my dad. And my grandfather made all of his own cars, a 1931 Durant, a 56 Packard, and I think it was a 67 Ford convertible. And the Packard, which looks exactly like this, was made in the shade of blue. And when I asked him why blue when he remade it, when that was not the original color of the car, he put up the paint sample up to my eyes, and he said, because it matches the color of your eyes. And I was deadpanned. I remember being there while he was spray painting and taking that thing apart. In fact, we babysat the house and the dogs, David and I, while they went to New York to buy the car and bring it back on a cart. And that is one memory that I'll never be able to let go of. It was a very good memory. But this reminds me of my grandpa with his Durant in the very first pictures. In fact, he bought his remade Durant when I was born in 1965. So there you go. There's all the tie-ins. Route 66, we live a couple of hours away from the Chicago hookup of Route 66. And we pass it each time we go up to our kids' house in Minnesota. Now, this was a fun one, although it was a headache to make. On one side, you're going to see that in just a second. On one side you have for the adults, but on the other side you have the kids. And there you go, the question that's always asked, are we there yet? With every state that goes in for the states that you visited. I happen to leave this blank, but we have easily been to over 2/3 of the states now. And yes, you can drive from Alaska. I've heard of people shipping their car to Hawaii, but I wouldn't advise it for me. Now, this is the other side, and this is the question I'm always asking. Where are we? Because you know, men, no, they do not stop and ask directions. I had every thought to put that finger pointing onto this page, but I thought, no, We want that on the front. So this was one of my fun pages, and this didn't take very long. I had all this already cut out and planned as soon as they announced what the challenge was. I knew I wanted to do that for a long time on something. Now we go to the ship, and yes, this is from experience of having a cruise. And you can see that I put a little white on the star. That's my own inside joke. White star line, Titanic, okay? Everything on a cruise ship is run by the clock. The time you eat, the places you go, the time you go to bed, everything is run by clock. It was not the best trip for a person like me who was always late, but it was immensely fun at all of the stops we made and all of the things we did. And number one on the list is trying new food. The entire amount that you spend on that trip is probably all about food. So I had to add some of the IdeaOlogy of Tim's that I love. The knife, fork, and spoon. And this couple just looked perfect. She looks like she's dressed where she doesn't want to get wet. Too bad she got splashed. And the ship, I loved being able to emboss these things. I wanted to do a few matte medium things, but it just didn't seem to fit with it the way this did. So I just went along with what I was feeling like, trying to add some tucks here and different fold outs there. Now, this is fun. I love this page. It's probably one of my favorite pages. Although this is about playing, you do wireless cables on the old ship. So I had to add that. That was in with the little joke about the white star line. Now here's your surprise. When you get done, the entire book folds out so that you can look at both sides, fold them in, out, and spend some time going through it and especially filling it. This is going to be a lot of fun to fill. If I ever decide to fill it, don't you just love it after you've got a blank thing that's made just on your own? Well, that's it for now. I'm the Chief's Wife, and I hope you come back to see more on A Chief's Wife's Hearts of Fire. Be safe and have a good week. Bye-bye.